Crystal Tower Information Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on over tower, roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Departure 71143, flying flag, runway 28 left, quick takeoff, left hand southbound first.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure on your flight.
Attention aviators. If you're passionate about flying, you need to check out Pilot Quarters. They are a pilot-owned family business based right in the Midwest in Michigan. They are on a mission to create your next favorite flying shirt. From comfy camp shirts to stylish polo shirts, sundresses, and tees, Pilot Quarters crafts unique aviation apparel. Choose from full-color chart designs, subtle overlays, or even wild tropical pattern blends with your favorite charts. Elevate your style and aviation passion. Visit pilotquarters.com today and soar in style. Aviation friends, let me share with you an absolute game changer in eyewear. I am personally hooked on Flying Eyes optics. Their stylish designs pair seamlessly with your headset for superior comfort. I used to fly with those cheap gas station sunglasses, but since switching to Flying Eyes, I can't go back. They're sleek, durable, and way more comfortable. Trust me, your eyes deserve the upgrade. Check out our affiliate link in the show notes, and make sure you use code FlyingMidwest10 for an unbeatable 10% off your purchase at Flying Eyes. Fly with comfort, fly with style. Visit Flying Eyes Optics today. Let's talk about some of the best active noise reduction headsets on the market. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just taking flight lessons, Lightspeed Aviation headsets are engineered with you in mind every step of the way. They've created the quietest and most durable A&R headsets on the market. Their high quality and innovative technology ensures you stay comfortable, connected, and safe in the cockpit. I've personally flown with Lightspeed for over a decade, and I wouldn't dream of flying with any other headset. Elevate your flying experience with Lightspeed. Check out our affiliate link in the show notes so that you can support the podcast with your next purchase. Aviators gear up for the skies with Flying Midwest Podcast merch. Dive into our latest edition, the striking Ghost graphic designs, available in long-sleeve tees, sweatshirts, and hoodies, perfect for your winter flying adventures. Head over to flyingmidwest.com/merch today and snag some of the coolest gear in aviation. And now, an all-new episode of the Flying Midwest Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Flying Midwest Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jim. Joining me tonight is the Badger pilot.
Hey, Jim. Maddie's going to join us later on in the interview. But until then, Jim, why don't you tell us what's in store for tonight?
I suppose I could do that. So tonight's episode will include the gentleman over with Pilot Quarters. As you've probably heard in other episodes, they are one of our most recent sponsors. I don't want that to sound, though, like this is going to be a 60-minute ad, so don't just tune out. We're going to learn more about these guys, their company, and their roots in aviation. It's a really cool family, and I'm really excited to bring that episode to you. So I saw on a YouTube channel called The Badger Pilot that there's some things going on with you, Andrew. So I think we should share them on this podcast too.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I think that's fine. Two of the biggest things we've already announced here. One, I'm joining
you're
Flying Midwest
sitting
podcast. Here. Yeah. Two, we've already talked my Patreon, and there was one other thing.
You're right. I forgot about the Patreon. I want to talk a bit about Rob Ryder. We had him on the podcast. It's been a while, but super nice guy. I loved talking to him, but he interviewed you for his podcast, sounds like.
Yeah, he did for his, what he refers to as I Laughed. I learned about flying from that podcast, and I had the same experience. Super genuine, nice guy, just absolute Midwest hospitality. His TV persona, if you will, it's not an act. He really is that nice of a guy.
Yeah, I still remember when I was setting up the interview with him and just how he wanted to talk not just about aviation. He wanted to talk about podcasting and audio before we even talked about scheduling an interview.
Yeah, and for me,
Are you using this program or using that?
yeah, and for me, it was about a half hour of recording followed by another half hour of just talking general aviation and,
Yeah.
comparing what planes we're flying, what equipment's in our planes. And he says hi to you guys, by the way, as well. He asked how I knew about the software we use to record our podcasts, and I said, "Oh, I joined the Flying Midwest podcast." And he said, "Oh, tell Jim I say hi. Tell Maddie I say hi." So,
Oh, what a guy!
yeah. But yeah, so I had a great time talking to him, and we did an episode about my bird strike and everything I learned from my bird strike and moving forward, and it was a really cool time. I don't know when the episode is coming out on his podcast, but when it does, I'm actually going to be releasing a video on my YouTube channel in conjunction with that, doing my own debrief, and that'll include a lot of the ATC audio and show my track log and a little bit more in depth than we had time for, because he does have a time limit to stick to on his podcast.
Yeah. He does. We just ramble, and I eventually just cut stuff, so we don't have a time limit. I know I'm excited to listen to that episode. He puts together a pretty good podcast. If you haven't checked it out, not that we're sponsoring him or anything, or want you to turn off this podcast and listen to that one. But when you're done listening to this episode, check out Rob Ryder's podcast in general. It's pretty good. So I'm excited to hear you on there.
I'm excited to see and hear how he puts it together. And yeah, you're right. We're not sponsored by his podcast, but he does do Ground School for Sporties, and that is a teaser for later in the episode. So stay tuned.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
A little foreshadowing. All right. Leave it at that.
Well, that's enough about my up-and-coming adventures. What do you have in store for us, Jim?
As people have probably seen on the old social medias, the Fly the Transition podcast, we back and better than ever. I've been doing a crap ton of interviews, several a week to get a good stockpile going for when we are ready to release that thing. So here's the question I have for you that I'm going to ask you directly on this podcast. So I was sitting down with my wife tonight, and we're talking about this podcast, as we've talked about pretty much every night for the last couple of weeks, because I can't shut up about it. But she asked, what are you waiting for? Why are you waiting until January to publish these things? You've been sitting down editing these episodes. You've got some ready to go. You're doing all these interviews. What are you waiting for? So that begs the question, because you specifically said to me probably a few days ago, I don't know how you're going to wait until January. And it's begging the question, I don't know how I'm going to wait until January.
That's not a question.
You're right. It's more of a statement, isn't it? I guess the question is do I wait? What am I waiting for?
I don't know. I say go for it.
Well, I'll put some thought into it.
But I'm not the producer of the Fly the Transition podcast, so my opinion doesn't matter.
It does, though, because I brought it up and I asked you. So clearly I care a little bit what you think. So the last things I'll talk about on that note is I have a new intro that I'm stupid excited about. I think it sounds awesome. And there's new logos and arts and all that stuff. So lots of things coming in that front. As I mentioned the last time I tried to launch this thing, that doesn't mean this podcast is going anywhere. I still have a lot of passion for the Flying Midwest podcast, and clearly I can't bring Andrew in and then go, never mind, I'm done. So there we go. That's what I got.
All right. Well, I can't wait, and I don't want to wait, but I guess I will have to.
I'll think about it this weekend. Maybe after Thanksgiving, I'd just hit the button. We'll see. Enough about that nonsense. Should we wrap up our ramblings and kick it over to the news?
That sounds good.
All right. What do you got for us?
I've got a story from Hartford, Wisconsin. And this past October, Steve Krog was inducted into the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame. He currently flies out of Hartford, but he's been flying around the Midwest since 1969 and then moved to Wisconsin in the 80s. He and his wife Sharon founded the Cub Club in 2000, and in 2004, Krog left his day job to start Cub Air Flight, which is a flight school consisting exclusively of Piper J3 Cubs. He's also integral in organizing the Piper Cub mass arrival to AirVenture. Krog was quick to remain humble about his accomplishments, stating, quote, "I never felt like I was ever worthy of being recognized, so it was quite a surprise and quite an honor." Now, anecdotally, I once heard a legend that one year the mass arrival from Hartford for the Cubs was so long that the first Cub landed in Oshkosh before the last one was even able to take off. So congratulations to Steve Krog for a well-deserved honor.
Shut up. That's a lot.
That's a lot of Cubs. That's a long line.
However, they go kind of slow. So
when I was writing that up, one of the most disappointing things I realized is most Piper Cubs don't have any electric system, which means no ADSB. So you can't see that line to like take a screenshot on a ForeFlight or something. You just got to trust that they're all there.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm going to kick it over to North Dakota, over in Bismarck. There is a group that is conducting honor flights for veterans to provide them the trip of a lifetime to Washington, D.C. So far, this organization has done 2 honor flights to the Washington, D.C. area. The point of this is for them to allow veterans of the various foreign wars to see the many memorials that they've got in the Washington, D.C. area. They do have more flights planned for the future, so they're encouraging people to sign up for that for flights that will occur in 2024. The president of the Western North Dakota Honor Flight has said that they want to show their appreciation for the veterans and the things that they've done for their country, and want to help their camaraderie as well. So a really cool project, if you ask me, helping those veterans get out to see all those different war memorials. I know that I thought they were really moving when I was in Washington, D.C., so that's a great opportunity for them. We'll put some information in the show notes for anyone who's interested in learning more about the Western North Dakota Honor Flight.
That sounds pretty cool. Staying in North Dakota, the University of North Dakota, or UND, recently announced that they'll be moving away from Swift unleaded 94 and going back to 100 low lead. The school originally made the switch to unleaded 94 after student interest in a greener fuel option. However, ongoing maintenance revealed measurable exhaust valve recession in some of the school's planes, specifically in Piper Archers and Seminoles. After moving back to 100 low lead, the school's director of maintenance, Dan Kozowski, said that they're still collecting data and will reevaluate in the future. And any information and data they find, they'll pass along to Lycoming for further analysis. It is worth mentioning that while UND had some issues with unleaded 94, Rabbit Aviation Services in San Carlos, California, reported a positive experience with the fuel, and they plan on moving forward with unleaded 94. So it seems like it's a mixed bag out there, and we're still just waiting on more data on what unleaded fuel and its future will bring for general aviation.
Yeah, there's bound to be some hiccups here and there with that. Well, it's a big night for the Dakotas. This is a third article from the Dakotas. This one, kind of South Dakota. On the 10th of November, the very first B-21 Raider bomber took off from Palmdale, California, and conducted its first flight successfully. Why is this big news for the Midwest? The airframe is the newest stealth bomber in the Air Force inventory, and Northrop Grumman had said that they would have it flying before the end of 2023, which it seems to have fulfilled. The first operational B-21 base will be at Ellsworth Air Force Base, which is in South Dakota. So 6 test aircraft are currently in production now, and the Air Force had previously said that the test aircraft would be usable assets as soon as they are airworthy. These aircraft are expected to cost around $700 million each, so some exciting news for the Dakotas, getting a pretty interesting new aircraft. I guess one other piece of history, as if people probably didn't figure it out already, but the B-21 is officially named the Raider in honor of the Doolittle Raiders from World War II that carried out the first airstrikes against the Empire of Japan.
We'll end the news on a little bit of a sad note, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about America losing a great aviator last week. Space legend and Indiana native Frank Borman passed away last week at the age of 95. After graduating from West Point, Borman was selected as a fighter pilot for the Air Force, and later in his career he returned to West Point to teach thermodynamics and fluid dynamics before being selected by NASA as part of the Next Nine, an elite group chosen as early pioneers for space exploration. Borman was the commander of Gemini 7, where he remained in space for 14 days, an endurance record at the time. But Borman is perhaps best known for his role as the commander of Apollo 8, which was the first ever mission to fly around the moon. For his part, Borman was awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. The Flying Midwest podcast sends our condolences to the Borman family and his friends as his spirit climbs to the heavens he once set out to explore.
One way that we typically can honor and remember the people that have done great things in aviation is through the celebration of aviation. So with that in mind, we should take a look at the events we've got for this episode. We've got a few events this episode, sure to get you into the holiday spirit. First up, on Friday, December 1st, from 5:45 p.m. until 8 p.m., Santa comes to Dodge County by airplane. This will be taking place at the Dodge County Airport, identifier Uniform November Uniform. You can bring your kids out to the airport for some holiday fun. Watch Santa arrive by airplane at 6 p.m., enjoy food, airplanes, and games. There will also be a chance to snap some photos with Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the Grinch. More information on this event will be in our show notes. Up next is the annual Holiday Tree of Hope, December 2nd in St. Cloud, Minnesota. The Tree of Hope is an aviation-based charity started in 1991. The group accepts donations and gifts for children who are going to be spending the holidays in local hospitals. So your donations can be flown or driven to the St. Cloud Regional Airport. They're also looking for volunteers to unload, sort, package, and distribute the toys to all the hospitals and locations the Tree of Hope supports. This event is December 2nd from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m. More information at holidaytreeofhope.org. And finally, on Sunday, December 10th, from noon until 4 p.m., the Kelch Museum is hosting their holiday open house. They're there to have some good old-fashioned holiday cheers, so bring the family and join them Sunday afternoon for fun and free activities. This will include a holiday bake sale, hot drinks and treats, holiday and aviation crafts, photo ops, free museum tours, and much more. More information on this event will be in our show notes. And that will do it for this episode's events.
Thanks for that, Jim. And with all that out of the way, should we get to the meat and potatoes of this week's episode?
I see what you did there. You took the thing that I hate that I say and you threw it right back in my face. Yes, we absolutely should do that.
All right, let's do it.
So we're happy to welcome the guys from Pilot Quarters onto the Flying Midwest podcast. They did join us in the Oshkosh preview episode, but we're going to have some time to sit down and talk with them all about their roots in aviation and how they came up with their concept. So without further ado, something else I say too often, let's welcome Jordan, Griffin, and Bob from Pilot Quarters. Welcome to the Flying Midwest podcast. How you guys doing?
Great. Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. As most people have heard at this point, based on our last episode and moving forward, you guys are with Pilot Quarters and the latest and greatest sponsor, the Flying Midwest podcast. So we're not only happy to have you as part of the Flying Midwest family and community, but to have you come on and tell us more about yourselves and Pilot Quarters. So
it's great to be joining you as a sponsor. And you know what? This is one of our first sponsorship experiences. We're a young company, and this is a great way because the people that listen to the Flying Midwest podcast are by and large the people that we want to share our products with, and the people that are giving us great inspiration for the next best shirt design. So it works out really well.
Yeah, for sure. So we're excited about that. Sounds like you guys are excited too. So hopefully this will be a positive venture for all of us and for our community. I think you guys all know what's coming. It's the Fast 5 questions. So I think I'll say the question and maybe we just go in order by age. Bob, Jordan, Griffin. You guys can give your answers. How's that sound?
We'll do our best. We'll do our best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question number 1. Favorite aviation content creator? You're up, Bob.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously it's going to be you.
Thank you.
You're the guy. I mean, Jordan probably pays more attention to content creators online than Griffin and I put together. But I'll let them speak for themselves.
We'll find out in a second, won't we? What do you got, Jordan?
I got to go probably with either. I think Mike Payton probably is number one. And then I watch a lot of like Air Force Proud 95 stuff, which is a lot more sim stuff. But
that guy cracks me up. He's funny.
Do you prefer his flying videos or when he's the controller?
I think the controller ones are a little better. I love those.
All right, Griffin, my man, you are up. What do you got?
Well, I gotta say I'm tied up with Jordan with Air Force Proud. It's I love his ATC stuff, but I also Bay Flight. That's Steamy. She was it was originally based in Ann Arbor. I met her twice. Once at our home airport, and second time at Oshkosh. So it was great to meet someone that was that big of a face in aviation.
She was right behind us as we recorded an interview at AOPA this year, and we didn't say a word to each other. So she was busy doing her stuff. We're busy doing our stuff. And she's someone I've reached out to try to get onto the podcast, and it just hasn't worked out. But she's like 5 feet from us, but we're mid-interview, so we can't just, hey, you're Steve.
Well, hold on, Jim. I thought that line of people was all for you.
That is not accurate. Not accurate at all.
We fool and deceive on this podcast.
Yeah.
Sometimes, for fun.
All right, question number 2. Least favorite aviation movie character. Back to you, Bob.
I'm gonna say it's just because I'm so sick of hearing who's the guy that Leslie Nielsen. Was it Leslie Nielsen or no? Who was it? Is an airplane?
He's an airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, but was it? He wasn't the pilot though, was he?
Nope, he's the doctor.
All right, who was the pilot?
I don't know the Striker was the character.
They play the quote, you know, they play the quote like
Oh, don't call me Shirley.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I am serious. Don't call me Shirley.
What's your vector, Victor? Oh wait, yeah, that whole scene. I don't know. I'm just done with it. I don't even know who it is, so I guess all right. I don't watch it anymore. I just got sick of it. It was like everywhere for a while, and I just got sick of it. So that's just me.
That's most of our jokes on this podcast, so we're gonna have to rethink some things.
Well, it sounds good when you do it.
Nah.
Well, so far he's saying he doesn't like the doctor, he doesn't like the captain, and he doesn't like the controller. So I think we've established Bob just doesn't like the characters.
I just like that movie. I think, all right,
Doesn't like airplane.
That's fair.
the jokes are just they're I'm done with them. Anyway, how about Jordan?
You're up, Jordan.
Yeah, moving on.
Pass.
Oh boy. I think I'm gonna. It might be a hot take, but I think I'm gonna go with. I don't know if it counts, but I'm gonna go with Dusty from the movie Planes.
Oh, it counts.
Yeah.
That's fair. I enjoy
We
that.
play a game here at school sometimes where we watch any of the Planes movies and then count how many times they break FARs, and he's definitely in the lead. And
Oh,
it's a pretty
you
fun game,
crazy
actually.
college kids and your games.
It's the most Embry-Riddle thing that we could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, Griffin, what do you got?
My least favorites.
Least
I
favorite.
think I'm gonna go with I don't know his real name, but Hangman in Maverick 2.
Okay.
In Top Gun 2, because he's so self-centered in a way. It's just an annoying guy. Don't like him.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. He's up there on my list.
I wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah, he is. He's very punchable. All right, question numero 3. Favorite airport that you visited?
I don't know the name of it, but it was Jordan and I were. I wish I knew the name of it. Jordan and I were on our way back from Florida in our Musketeer, and we landed in an airport in North Carolina, where it was a uncontrolled airport, but the guy working in the FBO there thought he was an air traffic controller, and he had a really great Southern accent. And he was telling us, hey, watch out, there's another airplane up in front of you there, about a mile or two up in front, but you'll probably see them. And then when you get in here, you guys hungry? You need some gas? And it was one of those examples of an airport. Every airport has its own personality.
I think I'm between two. I can't remember, again, what the name of the airport was. I want to say it was like Kent something in Indiana, was one of them on the way back from Oshkosh this past year. I was flying home by myself, and I flew into this tiny little airport because they had the cheapest fuel. And when I stopped in there, not only did they have the cheapest fuel, but they were grilling burgers and dogs for everybody and had donuts for everybody that flew in too. Which is like an Oshkosh thing that they do because they just like everybody coming into their little municipal airport, and it was pretty cool. And then probably the second, it's probably tied for first, would be Tucson, because we get to do. I've done pretty much all my cross countries at Riddle down to Tucson, and it is constant F-16s all day. So they're kind of vectoring and sequencing you in with F-16s.
All right, Griffin, you're up.
Favorite airport's got to be Kelly's Island. It's so scenic flying in there, and it's kind of scary in our small plane, but it's really cool. The whole island is just so secluded from everything else, and it's really, really pretty.
Where's that?
And it's right north of Cedar Point.
In Lake Erie, that's sort of halfway between Toledo and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Question number 4. Dream aircraft to fly. So you don't have to worry about any maintenance or upkeep or ownership. You just get to fly it.
I've said this for as long as I can remember. Caravan on floats.
Caravan on floats.
Yeah, caravan on floats would be to me, that's like the ultimate. I mean, not amphib caravan. Amphib caravan would be the ultimate. Just be the ultimate ship. Like you can do everything, and you can go camping, and you can go to the city, and you can go anywhere,
Sure.
and you can bring all your friends and their friends. How cool is that? To me, that's the machine.
I'm going to go same thing I've always said. The dream airplane, you win the lottery, the first thing you're buying. Going with the old T6. With the sliding canopy and everything. I just love the sound of those engines. I know they're awful to fly, but it's the dream airplane to fly. So.
It's my favorite warbird. Good choice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Griffin?
My favorite, if I have to do no maintenance, and I don't think this will ever happen, but a DC-8.
DC-8?
It's just so cool looking, and I've always loved it. Ever since I was young, I remember it was like one of the first planes that I got up in the cockpit and just kind of looked around. It was a decommissioned one, but it was just so cool.
All right, final question. If you could meet anyone in aviation, dead or alive, and have a conversation, who would it be? Bob.
It would probably be, I think it'd be Frosty. My buddy's grandfather, he flew in World War I, and then he flew in World War II, and then he became he went to work for Ford Motor Company as one of the pilots. But in between he worked, it was either in between or after that he worked for a survey company and flew a Twin Beach that was a survey airplane, and I believe there's a plaque in front of it. The aircraft is actually displayed at the Air Force Museum in Dayton.
Okay.
And I think he flew 25 or 30,000 hours in that airplane. That serial number, like, amazing.
Oh, not just the that serial number.
That airframe. Yeah,
oh, wow.
that airframe. Yeah, amazing. And super, super interesting guy that I never got a chance to meet. I heard lots of stories, and his whole his son and grandson were both really instrumental in my interest in aviation. So that's where I would go.
Jordan.
Anybody that was privileged enough to fly the SR-71. Honestly, just any pilot, anybody who is able to fly that, because that is just it's a piece of aviation history that unfortunately isn't coming back for ever. But something that really was a pioneer for the future of military flight in a big way. So,
all right, Griffin, you've had a lot of time to think about this answer, so I'm hoping for a good one. What do you got?
Yeah, well, I can't think of anyone too specific, but I definitely want to talk with somebody who's flown the Antonov 225, just because it's the biggest flying cargo, it's just the biggest flying thing that there was.
Yeah.
And it was just such a cool piece of aviation, and I think there's some thought that it might come back, whether they might rebuild one, but just anyone who's flown that big of a plane, it's just ginormous.
Yeah, no kidding. Huge.
It's a lot of airplane. Thank you to the three of you for playing along with the Fast 5 questions. Certainly a lot of fun. All right, with that out of the way, should we jump into our interview for this episode?
So the gang's all here, obviously, which is very exciting. It's awesome to see you all here. But could you guys please tell us a little bit about your family and your guys' aviation background?
All right, the summary. So I got my private pilot's license in the late 80s, and these guys were born starting in the early 2000s, and I flew airplanes for a while. I gotten away from it, and when Jordan was born, I got into gliders, and we started putting him in the back seat of the glider, and then when he was about 2. And he grew up, and Griffin grew up at the glider club. And when they were little, we would put them in the back seat, tandem seating, put them in the back seat, and everybody on the field knew that we would zip tie their seatbelt together, because we realized if they're too little to understand. Like, if you release that and you start climbing around back there, like, no, you're just climbing around back there, like that.
Yeah.
So that was it. So I got really interested in in the gliders, and then a few years ago, we Jordan. Both of the guys have been super excited about aviation, and we started going to Oshkosh, and we just couldn't stop. We've been going to Oshkosh. I can't remember how many years in a row we haven't missed, and we love Oshkosh. And then a couple of years ago, we actually were able to purchase our own airplane, and we've been flying that. And both of these guys are aviators on their own now, and it's great.
I got to ask a question. This is just a personal curiosity for me. How did you guys land on the Musketeer?
How did we? It was really with Sean. It was our guy that was our A&P / airline pilot guy buddy that was helping us, and we were looking at and we just wanted an airplane. We had a budget, and we wanted an airplane. We sold our camper to fund it, and so we had some cash, and that was it. We were just looking, and he was helping us, and he kept saying, this Musketeer that I had for a while that I was representing, that would have been a really good airplane for you guys. And he kept saying that, and we didn't know what a Musketeer was, and so we started reading up about it, and then we said, maybe that's the right airplane. So we started looking, and it was really that. It had a lot of similarities with almost like a 182 with. Other than it's a little slower, but it has a good lifting capacity. It's a super solid and comfortable airplane. It's a little bit wider body, and we just love it.
I love it.
Well, then I need to ask the obvious question. If when the three of you guys fly together, do they call you guys the Three Musketeers?
Oh,
not heard that one.
Not yet.
Really? There you go.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a bit too about some aviation photography stuff. So one of my other hobbies is I love photography, and you guys did a bit of that at your time at Oshkosh over the years, right?
I've always been fired up about photography, and then I try to put cameras in these guys' hands. And actually, the time that Jordan took an amazing photo, Sean D. Tucker's airplane, that turned into a story of its own. But I absolutely try to put cameras in the hands of these guys all the time. And we have a couple of older Nikon camera bodies and lenses now, and we sort of swap them out, and each of us can be out shooting, and then everybody's sort of comparing photos, right? And then at the end of the night, we're back at the camper looking at photos for the day. So it's a passion for photography and for aviation that I think it's something that we all do now.
Is that something you guys just do for fun? Do you do anything with those photos, or?
We haven't done much other than we have used them for pilot quarters. We've used them in some of our ads. We've used them in some of our Instagram posts and stuff like that as attention getters, right? Because they're photos that we took. So we don't have to worry about getting permission for them or whatever.
But so you brought up Sean Tucker, and there's a story behind that. So we talked about it a little bit in our Oshkosh episode, but I want to explore that a little bit more if you guys are up for it.
Sure.
All right. Let's talk first about how you guys got the introduction into Sean Tucker, and then Jordan, I'm going to want to hear more about that flight, man.
So basically, we just continuously went to Oshkosh for a couple of years, and the stuff he used to do with that with Oracle One was just mind blowing. The G's that he would pull in his routine, especially for how many years that he's done it, was just overly impressive. And so we were sitting out by the flight line one day, and I was able to get a pretty cool, pretty simple photo of his airplane just after takeoff roll, probably 200 feet AGL. And then later that night, we realized he was going to I believe it was actually the first ever public showing of planes when they did it at Oshkosh. He was there and gave a little talk beforehand, and then I was able to meet him right before the movie started, and I gave him one copy, and he signed another copy for me that I have hung up in my room back home. Or actually, I have it hung up right next to me. I forgot I brought it to school. I was able to get that copy signed by him, and then he wanted me to sign the one that I gave him, and he hung it up in his flight school, which is really cool.
Oh, really?
And then he said, if you come back in another 2 years to Oshkosh, let me know. Show me this photo, and then we'll go fly in my airplane. And so, sure enough, 2 years later, I went back. He was doing an autograph signing at Oshkosh. And I said, hey, you remember this photo? I still have it hung up in my room, and I'm really excited. He's like, yeah, I promised you you'd go fly in the airplane. So a couple weeks later, I met him in Cleveland. My dad took me out of school early, which was great. And then we went down to Cleveland and got in the extra 300, and I went for my first, actually, I believe it was my first single engine flight, any kind of flight where I had the controls in my hands. So
Oh, wow.
it was really, really cool, taxiing out behind Thunderbirds. And it was different, being able to go upside down with one of the greatest aviation legends, especially in terms of aerobatics, that there's ever been, ever will be. I was actually talking about it on my instructor this morning at a 5:30 a.m. flight. He asked me, what's your favorite airplane that you've flown? I was like, actually, it's an extra 300. And I was with Sean D. Tucker, and he was like, nice. It's like, yeah, I flew a 182 once. I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
It's a nice low-key flex right there.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So it's something I still talk about, still think about.
So how old were you when you took that flight with him?
Oh, man, I was, 14?
Okay.
Yeah, 14.
And is he talking you through maneuvers he's about to do, or what is it like being in the plane with him?
Yeah, so we'd go up and he'd kind of demo something like a loop or, snap roll or something. And then he'd just go, all right, your turn. You saw what the stick did. You know what it's doing. Do it. And then he'd kind of coach me through it. And it was really, really fun. And there's a lot of things that I don't forget. I remember he's like, all right, let's go up. We're going to do a hammerhead, and then we're going to do a snap roll down, and then we're going to do 3 loops in a row. I'm like, all right, cool. We can handle that.
You're like, oh, I got to.
Yeah. So went up, hammerhead, no problem. First 2 loops, pretty easy. That third one, though, I distinctly remember pulling out of it. And he's like, oh, you got it. You just keep pulling back. And he's telling me to just keep pulling. He's like, you're not pulling back at all. And I swear I was. And just the vision tunnels and starting to get a little fuzzy. I was like, all right, yeah, that's, I'm in my flight physiology class right now at school and talking about all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people are just trying to wrap their heads around it. It's like, I get it.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Been there, done that. Yeah.
Have you kept in touch with him since?
I send him a text every year at Oshkosh. I caught up with him once since, but I'm hoping to see him this coming summer at Oshkosh. If not, give him a call or shoot him an email pretty soon to kind of update him on, the fact that I'm almost about to finish my commercial and going to try to get a CFI this summer and all kinds of stuff. So just kind of how far I've taken it from that first flight.
That's really cool.
Well, let's change gears a little bit and start talking about pilot quarters. And let's go back to the very beginning. Whose idea was it, and how did the concept come to be?
We've gone back and forth so many times, try to remember exactly how we started. And it was whose idea it was. I don't think we can nail it down whose idea it was, because it was something we all did together. I was one of those guys that used to wrap Christmas gifts in expired sectional charts because they were colorful. It's a good heavy paper, and I had in the back of my mind that it would be fun to do something else with them. And Jordan had a class in school that was an entrepreneur class, and it was when he was. It wasn't homeschool, but it was homeschool because it was during COVID, right? And so, we're working on stuff, sort of trying to work on stuff. I was trying to be helpful with them to the extent he wasn't telling me to go away. This is modern day technology, but anyway, it was great. So we worked on that to get the idea together, and I don't know where exactly it started, but where it is now is sectional charts. The first idea was Hawaiian shirts with sectional charts in the background, and now it's probably half or more of the shirts that the pilot quarters that we're making to pilot quarters are actually sectional charts by themselves, just as they're published from the FAA. We go in and make some little tweaks and remove some of the stuff that's sort of annoying to like the white squares where there's a terminal area chart or something like that. But yeah, that's where it started. That's sort of where we are now.
So that's kind of more where the idea of turning something into a business kind of came from. I feel like I kind of had a school project when I was in Florida over that senior year, and I was in an entrepreneurship class in high school, and my teacher just told us to come up with a business plan and make this whole big final project. And so I kind of went through with these just random ideas of stuff that maybe I could do something. And I kind of came up with an idea of, what if I ran, some kind of online shirt shop? And I was like, well, over COVID, everybody was buying shirts online and buying clothes that they didn't need And so I was thinking of something along those lines, and I was like, what if I made something that people actually wanted? And so started to kind of brainstorm with, my dad and my brother and everything about what about aviation stuff? Because, it seems like each hobby kind of has their own, general line of clothing, general kind of brand that they stick to or type of shirt or whatever that they stick to. And, we don't really, it's never really been a thing with aviation. Everyone just kind of wears whatever, unless you're in the airlines or, at a flight school or something like that. And so we kind of played with the idea of like a leisure wear for pilots. It was kind of different, kind of, something that we had never seen before. And we liked the idea, I play golf and I like the idea of kind of polos that have some kind of faded design to them. Like we kind of combined the idea of the, wrapping paper with this whole apparel idea. And that's kind of where the shirts on shirts kind of came to be. And it's just grown way more than I would have ever guessed from a high school project. But it's pretty cool that that's kind of how it originated, and it kind of led us on this whole trail that we're on now.
Did you get a lot of positive feedback from your teachers or other students that said you should pursue this as a business, or what made you decide then to follow up with it?
Oh yeah, that was definitely one of my prouder A's in high school. She loved the idea, and kind of everybody in class was kind of like, I was kind of, that's actually something that you could make. And then we bought a website domain, decided, why not? Let's see if we can make it. And I think it was like some of the first shirt orders that wasn't people that we knew that came through that was like, whoa, like that's pretty cool. And then from that point on, it just kind of sprung, and it kind of sat on the back burner for a minute. We were slowly building it, not paying honestly too much attention to it till kind of Oshkosh a couple of years ago. I think it was right that first Oshkosh after COVID. I was walking around and I saw somebody, and I was like, wait, we have that shirt. That's a shirt that we made. I don't know that guy either. That's even better. And so I went up and talked to him. I was like, hey, where'd you get that shirt? It's like, oh, I saw an ad for it. I love it. It's my favorite one. I've got 3 of them. I'm like, there's no way. And so I instantly called my dad. I'm like, we need to start to do something with this. This is pretty, like, somebody is wearing it in public. Like, this is great. and it was pretty sweet. Because when you kind of make something, especially online, you make something, you don't ever really interact with the people that you're selling to, that are buying your product, using your product. To see it out in person for the first time, it really makes it feel like a real thing. We knew we were making something real. We had a bunch of them, but it's one thing to see your friends in it, and it's another to see somebody actively supporting it and loving it, not having any idea where it came from or who you are, whatever it is. It was just really special, and that kind of made it what it is. Just kind of helped us build, and that encouraged us a ton. So,
and now it's to the point where you don't even text me pictures every time you see a kid wearing one in class at Embry-Riddle, because it's like all the time, right?
Yeah, no, there's a good handful of them around
awesome.
School now. And the first time I saw somebody in class was really a big one too. It's like, I go to school with this guy. He has no idea who I am. He's wearing a shirt that, he bought off Facebook. And so that was really cool.
Do you tell them that it's you eventually?
Oh, yeah. Instant. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a pilot. Also, I made your shirt.
I'm like, that is cool. And just kind of give them a thank you too,
Oh, sure.
If you go on, you buy a shirt or whatever that you think is cool, to you, it's just, it's just a shirt you thought was cool. It's a shirt you like, something you want to wear. But you don't realize that there's a lot of effort and a lot of people that kind of went in to make that happen. And so to kind of, thank them and make it more of a meaningful thing. I mean, Jesus, guy's worn at most classes. He's got like 4 of them now. And so it's pretty cool.
So what made you guys decide on the name of Pilot Quarters? Where did that come from?
It was something that came from me. When I first started working at the University of Michigan, I was a helicopter dispatcher, and I was really tight with the pilots. And the pilots that I worked with there are the ones that talked me into believing that I could become a private pilot. And they encouraged me, and they would actually sit and go over class stuff with me in between flights. And I really looked up to those guys, and their hangout at the hospital was the pilot quarters. It was what it was called. And and I got to spend a lot of time in the pilot quarters, and I just thought that was a great name, and pilotquarters.com was available. So it was the stars lined up.
How did you guys come up with the designs for your shirts?
Most of them are actually customer requests. We came up with the first few we just sort of were guessing, and some of them didn't work at all. People were like, "Wow, that's really a horrible, ugly design," and then some of them were really cool, and they were catching on. People were like, "Could you do this? Could you do that?" So we literally don't have any set expectations for any of those designs, and that's really where they came from. Most of the time, it's an airport. It's your airport where you first soloed, or it's your airport where you keep your airplane, or where your club is. But sometimes it's where you want to fly someday, or you just think that chart looks really cool. Some of the charts do look cool because in different parts of the country, they're different colors with the different, you get out west and with the mountains, and they look really, really cool. And the Alaska and Hawaii are super popular, and a lot of times it's just a place that's important to somebody because of their aviation experience.
Now that you mentioned the mountains, I'm currently on your site looking at the Groom Lake one for Nevada. So
there you go. I know a guy.
You know a guy.
We also have done a lot of custom work for places like the Vermont Flight Academy. There's a place called Wild Blue Aviation where they're actually, when they sell an airplane, they're getting chart shirts with the N number of the airplane to give to their customer with it.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's a cool thing. We've got an EAA chapter that was about to pull the trigger on like 100 shirt order for their entire EAA chapter. We've done military units. There's a Black Hawk Attack helicopter unit out of Washington State that we did almost 100 shirts for last year. There's a fly-in community called Love's Landing in Florida, and we did, and you probably saw that shirt. We had a sample of it where they had not only the chart, but then there was also an illustration of every airplane that lives or that's home based at that airport all over the shirt. So that was a super popular one. We've also been fortunate to be able to donate to some fundraisers for some young aviators clubs and for some scholarship funds and things like that. And that's really rewarding for us to be able to donate a few shirts for an auction or something like that. We're really excited to do it.
That's great.
It's so awesome.
I think all three of us have completely derailed ourselves, and we're all on the website right now.
We are not on the website right now looking at shirts.
Keep shopping. Put fucking your phone and wait till Black Friday because it's all going to be on sale from one day on.
Oh, we're going to talk about that, my friend.
Because we operate on Shopify, we can actually see that there's somebody actively in the store just north of Minneapolis. There's somebody in the store just west of Milwaukee. Our thing is ultimately we're putting smiles on people's faces. We're helping people spark conversations about aviation. That's really what's awesome about this, and the stories that people tell us. There was a lady that contacted us. She was going to get the Wright Brothers Award, which is 50 years of safe flight, right? And you can get from the FAA the Wright Brothers Award, and she knew she was getting it. She asked us if we could do a dress for her and that she could wear for the presentation of the award. And we did it. Right half of the dress was where she'd initially done her solo in the early 70s. And the left half of the dress is where she's still currently a CFI today. And so that was, I don't know, we're not going to sell that dress to anybody else, but it was like, it was so awesome to do that for her. And there are a lot of stories like that. And Jordan has had opportunities to do some special shirts for some of his classmates and some of the faculty at Embry-Riddle.
You guys have talked about like some really special things that you've done that have meant a lot to you. What is probably the most memorable story that you've had with this business so far?
I think I really like the day you called me and told me you had some shirt orders out of Prescott, Arizona. For one guy, bought a couple shirts and ended up being the head of our flight department here at school. And I thought that was pretty cool. So, because this was before the school even had recognized that it was, us that did it. And then I went to school here even. He had no idea. And so that was pretty cool. I thought that was really, really pretty sweet.
I want to talk a bit about what's next for you guys, but I also want to talk a bit about what you might have come up for like Black Friday and Cyber Mondays.
It's really just staying up with the constant inflow of requests. It's not there. We don't have any one big next thing. We are introducing some new products, and we've been doing some testing. So we're doing lightweight hoodies. Those are going to be coming online. We're going to be doing more with the long sleeve T-shirts. We did send out our shirts, all of our shirts, to an independent lab towards the end of the summer, and they came in for testing for UV resistance. And so that we're going to be talking more about that because they all came back as a UPF 50 plus. Which we didn't know. So we were really happy about that. It's a big deal. And we decided it was an investment. It was a pretty serious investment to have that testing done, and we got that done. So we really want to continue to make sure that people are aware of that we can make any of the designs that we have in any of the products, especially women's products, because we'll get that request or that comment on Facebook, well, where's the women's stuff? And it's like, well, just because we haven't done the Albuquerque VFR, Bravo yet in a sundress doesn't mean we can't. You just have to tell us you want that. Every fabric pattern and every shirt pattern is its own project. And so to take something that, somebody will say, I want this airport covered. I want Minneapolis in a long sleeve polo. Okay, we don't do a lot of long sleeve polos, but we'll do it. And then it goes up on the store. And then somebody else was like, wow, all they have it is in the long sleeve polo. And it's like, no. We start educating people that we can do anything in any of those designs, or we can take that design and invert it and change the colors and those kinds of things. I think that's a big deal. But that's, what's on the horizon is really staying up with those customer requests, and also staying up with customer feedback and making sure that we're providing things for people that they really like.
So as far as the holidays, they're coming up. Obviously, these are excellent gifts. So could you please tell us about the opportunities that you guys have coming up to get some gear?
Black Friday, we're going to have a site-wide sale. Everything will be 35% off, and everything's free shipping. We are also have a new area on the website, which you may see like on the front page, which is things that we actually have in stock, because most of our stuff ships directly from our factory in Vietnam, and it takes 2.5 to 3 weeks to get there. And people are comfortable with that because we're really upfront about it. But we actually have a number of things that are in stock, and we've been able to stock a lot more, and we're now finding ways we're building that part of the site out. So every day we're adding more. It'll be more apparent on the website what we have available that we can ship directly from Michigan, and you can have it within a couple of days. So, but 35% off site-wide for Black Friday, and anybody who's on our email list will be able to have access to that sale a week early. So it'll be for the 7 days preceding Black Friday. So those emails will be going out with a special coupon code. So if you're not on our email list, just click on one of those pop-ups when you first get to pilotquarters.com, or just click on the contact us on the bottom of the page and ask to be on the email list, and you'll be on that. And then Cyber Monday, when that rolls around, our sundresses and our coconut button camp shirts will all be buy one, get one free. It's a fun time of year, and what's really, what's the best part of it though is afterwards, when people tell us the story about when somebody opened the Christmas present and they were so excited to get something that they didn't even know existed. That part is the best for us.
That's very cool.
Is the website the best place to get your apparel then?
Our website, but it's also available. Almost 100 of our choices are available at Sporties now in the Wright Brothers collection. So if you go to Wright Brothers, if you go to Wright-bros.com, you can order our shirts. The prices are the same there. I don't know what their Black Friday and Cyber Monday specials might be. But yeah, you can order them through there, and they still ship about the same amount of time. It's still about 2.5 weeks if you order them from there. But that was something that happened in the spring this year, that Sporties contacted us and asked if they could carry our gear in the Wright Brothers collection, which is really been exciting for us. And every day, every day they'll contact us and say, hey, we've got a couple more shirt orders. And so that's been fantastic. And it's just another way to get them in people's hands.
Maddie, do you think it's about that time?
I think it's about that time. Andrew, is it time? Do you know what time it is?
I think I know what time it is.
Gentlemen, what is your aviation unpopular opinion? Spicy takes welcome.
I think mine here in the family is going to have to be that anytime somebody says, would you like to go another hour of instruction? Would you like to learn a little bit more about that? The answer is always yes. And we belong to a glider club, right? In the glider club, would you like one more flight with an instructor? Would you like one more, we could do another rope break. Would you like to do that? And the nagging feeling is, no, I just want to go fly and have fun. But the answer is yes. The answer is always yes. And I think that sometimes it's unpopular because it's another instruction flight doesn't always sound like another fun flight. And we want to get to the fun flights.
I'd say probably a couple that I can think right off the head is one of my instructors, one of my professors for my jet systems class brings up every single class a different movie and a different quote that drives him insane. So I just generalize aviation movies. A lot of them are pretty rough. Just a lot of the dramatization of things drives him insane. He said he can't watch them at theaters anymore because he'll just get kicked out because he can't handle it. From other sides of things, as a safety major, we've learned very quickly that it drives all of us insane now on airliners when people don't wear seatbelts when they're sitting down. It just drives. A lot of people, like, oh, I don't need it. You're gonna be fine. No, because when something doesn't happen, when a decompression happens, you don't want to be the one without a seatbelt on. That's just the way it is. But yeah, that's probably two of the highest ones for me. It's just any aviation movie, and then the seatbelts on airlines. That's another one.
Griffin, you got one?
Well, I think mine are a little more common, but I got two that are pretty reasonable. I think the first one is Airbus is definitely better than Boeing.
Oh,
that's my strong opinion.
Spicy.
And then I'm also gonna say that Top Gun 2 is better than Top Gun 1.
The other one is objective fact, of course, because Danger Zone only played once instead of 8 times. So it's on that metric alone.
Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to cover that we haven't brought up, or?
I don't think so. Other than I would just say, you know what? I want to say thanks for the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about our experience. It's been great to reflect on where we've been and where we're going. And I would encourage you and your listeners to reach out to us. We're super approachable. We answer our own phones. We answer our own emails. We're not a big corporate company yet. And we really do take a lot of pride in putting smiles on people's faces. And I have one thing to ask, though, Maddie. When we get back to the unpopular opinion thing, there's a lot of memes out there that you see in the groups and stuff where they're like the guys that are saying, really snarky comments about, tell me, show me that you're a pilot without saying you're a pilot, and they do mention our shirts once in a while in our ads. Somebody will make a comment and say, oh yeah, show me you're a pilot without it. I think it's a really good thing to come out and say I'm a pilot. And if you weren't wearing a pilot quarters shirt, how the heck is anybody going to know that you're a pilot? Right? I mean, it's like I think all of us want to promote aviation. We want people to feel like it's accessible. We want to feel like people should feel comfortable being exposed to it. Not everybody may become a pilot, but somebody might want to become an air traffic controller. They may might be a perfect match for an opportunity at an FBO or some other airport management position. I mean, there's a lot of things around aviation other than just being a pilot. I think that anything that we can do to spark those conversations, get people motivated, interested, and excited about aviation is really cool.
Well, we can't thank you guys enough for coming on to the Flying Midwest podcast, talking more about the business and what you guys have in store. And we're certainly excited to share that with our listeners. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the hospitality. We love it.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thanks to the guys from Pilot Quarters for joining us on this episode of the Fly Midwest podcast. Be excited to hear from them in the future as well as their company continues to grow and spread their wings, so to speak, in aviation.
Yeah, I had a great time talking to them. I had no idea that their market was so vast and that they've been reaching out to so many different awesome groups. So kudos to them and best of luck to them in the future. And of course, thanks to Pilot Quarters for being our first sponsor for the Flying Midwest podcast. You can check out their shirts at pilotquarters.com and look forward to Black Friday sales in the near future. Well, I had a great time hosting my first episode, and I can't wait until the next one. So who do we have next, Jim?
Who do we have next? That's a great question. I have plugged this individual before. Guest that was going to be coming on, and we had to switch the order up a little bit. So we're going to take another stab at trying to get an interview with Carolyn Blaze Jensen. She is a former United States Air Force Thunderbird. She's originally from and has returned to the Midwest. She'll be talking to us also about her book Thundermouse, which is out now. It's a children's book that talks about her time on the team as her son was only about 3 years old.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And if you, the listener, enjoy our content and also look forward to that and other great interviews, be sure to subscribe and follow on all of your podcast platforms. Send us an email or check out the merch on our website, flyingmidwest.com. And speaking of great content, we do want to give a shout out as well to the Midlife Pilot podcast. They put out some great content as well, and they were kind enough to give us a shout out on their podcast, and so we want to return the favor. So make sure you go check out the Midlife Pilot podcast, also on all of your podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube. They live stream on generally Tuesday nights, and you can join the chat live and be a part of the conversation there.
And chat with us a little bit too. I feel like we almost hijacked it a little bit last night in the chat, but they still gave us a shout out. So.
That's usually how it goes. Half the time we're having our own little side conversation.
Yeah. At any rate, they're really entertaining guys. So, and being a midlife pilot myself, it resonates with me. So, check those guys out. So that'll do it for this episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time,
see you.
Chip.
Flight Jet 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35. Good day.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
Did you freeze? Did I lose you? Or are you broken?
You froze again.
You froze again. Let's do that. I'm going to turn my video off, just see if that helps.
Okay. But I like looking at you. Okay, we can... Here, I'll start that.
Fine, there you go. There.
I was going to say something cheesy about, well, should we transition to your big news?
See, that almost felt hurtful, though. Like you're just taking shots now. Oh, hell, you froze again.
Hold on, I lost you.
What kind of internet do you guys have in Wisconsin?
It's that cricket phone internet. Hold on a second.
I don't know what app you're in, so I can't handle.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Alexa, make announcement. Everybody needs to stop streaming for about 10 minutes, please. Thank you.
I'm going to use that somehow. Alexa, make an announcement. Because I'd like to hear how many people's Alexas in their houses go off.
Oh, yeah. But I do want to point out that my pop-up ad embedded in the story is none other than pilot quarters. That's pretty awesome. That's awesome.
The first operational B-21 base will be
more than interesting. Super interesting. That was super lame. Don't use that.
I'll use whatever I want. Yeah, it's gonna be a blooper, my friend. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You know, it comes across so polished and well put together that when you told me I had to start doing the news, I sat down. I researched for like good stories. I sat down and wrote out a script. Like,
if only knew how half-assed it really is. Badger, since you just typed yes, you want to ask this next question? He's muted.
Dude, unmute yourself. It's okay. We still have a step up. We know when to unmute us.
I'm unmuted now.
What the hell kind of internet do you guys have in Wisconsin?